What's up, Magnetic Men Club? We are back here on another Friday with another topic we've actually covered in the last couple weeks on why you shouldn't be a model citizen. And what we mean by that is why you don't really want to conform to society and live a mediocre life just based on what society tells you should do. And really just kind of like going your own way, like in the way that, MGTOW, like men go their own way. Like we don't conform to society. We don't care what other people tell us to do. We're going to do our own thing no matter what. And so that's what today's call is all about. I'm Chase, my good friend Jared here.
What's up, kids? Another weekend. We're ready to rock and roll. It's just another day for Chase and I. But if you guys have a couple days off for the weekend, this is a perfect segue into what we're talking about.
Right.
I hate to tell you guys this, but you've been sold a fucking bill of lies. You've traded what I call a 5 for 2. You give your employer, you give the tax man, you give everybody 5 days, and they give you 2 days off, which is living for the weekend. And this is what we're all talking about today. I did a video on this. A lot of people ask questions in the YouTube comments on this. Some people a little shocked that they're like, hey, I never looked at it this way. This is how most people live. And I'm not knocking anybody. To some degree, I'm still in this model citizen role. And so is Chase. And in other facets that I've completely escaped out of it. I don't punch a time clock anymore. I can wake up pretty much whenever I want. But of course, when you're self employed, you actually work harder than most people who have the 9 to 5.
Absolutely, for
So
sure.
you never really escape. Oh, hold on a second, Chase. I'm going to have you jump on. My door just opened because of
Yeah, yeah,
the
you got it.
wind.
You got it. So I mean, what it all comes down to is like let's explain exactly what the acronym for model citizen is. And like what it means is being mediocre, being obedient, dependent, entertained, and lifeless. And in every facet of life, like obviously, like we have to conform in certain facets of life depending on where we're at, what level we're in, what matrix we're playing in. Like we always have to play by the rules of whatever we're doing to make sure that life keeps flowing. But like really, what society tells you to do and how they program you from the get-go is they really program you to live an obedient kind of mediocre life where you're docile, you do what you're told, you always fall in line, they can always count on you, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And it's not their fault. I want you to understand my parents told me the same thing probably their parents did. Said, hey, get a good job, go to school, go to college, get a good job, fund your retirement, get a good house with a good mortgage,
Get married.
save as much as you can. Don't live, too lavishly. They've all basically said the same carbon copy, and now we're all carbon copies of each other. But if you look at the masses, we're all mediocre. Most people are fairly mediocre. Now, look at somebody who's doing really well. Let's just look at it's a huge example, but let's just use somebody like Elon Musk. Do you think he lives a mediocre life? Fuck no. Would you want his life? Maybe not, because he'll outwork the hell out of you. Is he obedient? He did not follow societal rules. He maybe went to college, I believe he said, but he kind of left when he realized this isn't going to work. Look at all
Yeah.
of most of your billionaires skipped college, or once they got into college, they dropped out because they realized this isn't for me. They're not willing to be obedient and follow those rules. Do you think Elon Musk is dependent on the government? Do you think Elon Musk is dependent on what people think about him? Nope. Is he entertained how most people are? Most people are entertained through social media, through Netflix, through movies, through living through other people. This is what I mean by
Right.
entertained. We're easily, look at TikTok. It's a 5 second watch, and people can spend hours and hours flipping. Society wants you dumbed down and entertained and dependent upon them. This all equals lifeless. You're not really living. You might think you are, but are you really living when you know Friday comes along, you hang out with your buddies. Yeah, maybe you get to spend some time with your kids. Most of the time, you got to do fucking housework at the house, and you got to go right back into the grind on Monday. Do you think
Well,
that's
they tell
life?
you
Do
that
you
that's
think
the
that's
American dream
life?
too. Like that's the American dream lifestyle. The white picket fence, mowing the
That's
lawn, wife brings you the lemonade, all that stuff for sure.
that's what they sold you. And who wins on this? The only people who win on this, guys, and we'll get into the back half on this, are called producers. The government are just takers. It takes about 7 months now for you to work to pay all of the taxes that you have to pay. And I'm talking all taxes. Most people got to work 6 to 7 months just to pay the fucking government. And then the rest is yours. And then out of that, you have to save for your retirement. And here's the thing that they tell you about retirement, it's a lie. You're hopefully going to live long enough to actually enjoy the money that you hope somebody invests correctly for you. Do you see the logic in that? You're
Yeah, you
giving
have
your
no control
hard
over
earned
that at
money.
all. Yeah, yeah.
So the model citizen has two pathways to go that they can go. They both lead to the same slaughterhouse. It's a fucking farce. And most people abide by it. Most people now even tell their kids because they don't know. So the first pathway most people take, and I'm going to say this is the newer generation, is they have the consumer mindset. They want to look like ballers. They want to act like ballers. They want to dress like ballers. They want to go on vacation like ballers. They're still a slave to a job because now they can't leave that job. They have to keep paying. They're heavily in debt. Most of these types of people, their credit cards are maxed pretty much, and they're paying the minimum on that. Yet they have a fancy car in the driveway and they have a house they can't afford. They're one paycheck away from full and complete bankruptcy. This is the newer type. I would say maybe somebody who's from 40 and younger. This is what they've mostly subscribed to because they grew up kind of with social media. They start seeing these rap artists, they start seeing these people, and now all these influencers flying around on private jets, not realizing all of these people are producers and they're selling you probably a lie, but they're still selling you on something that only benefits them.
That's the thing too. Is I mean, it's all psychology, right? Like marketing and like these companies spend like billions and billions of dollars. Governments spend billions of dollars, like experimenting on these things and trying to like put case studies out there and trying to like have their test subjects and things like that, right? And so when you have all of that going on, and like they're investing a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of energy in trying to figure out what makes us tick, right? And the biggest thing too is that I think a lot of people, like 97% of people at least, are kind of living their life on autopilot. Like they're just kind of like lost. They're not really going in any particular direction. They're not really working towards any goals. They don't really know what their values are. They don't really think they're capable of a lot. Like their box is really small. And when that kind of happens, I think that when they like want to use their time, they have as much time as anybody else does, right? They have as much time in the day as I have. They have as much time in the day as anybody else has, as Elon Musk has. We all have the same amount of time in a day. It's just we all do different things with that time. And I think when somebody else has kind of shrunk themselves down into that little box, it's really easy for them to just sit around and watch TV and just consume news and just consume TikTok because, like, what else are they working toward? They don't have any goals. They don't have any ambitions. They don't know what they want from life. And so
Yeah.
they're kind of a zombie in a way. Like, they need to kind of wake up, like, per se, right? And so I think when it comes down to all of that stuff, like, how do you get these guys to kind of wake up and start to be more intentional? Because if not, like, society is programming you. TikTok is programming you. Facebook, Instagram, it's programming you. Porn, it's programming you. Games are programming you. All that stuff is programming you because you're unintentional and you're not really working towards anything yourself. And so somebody else has a goal and they're like, hey, you're over here not doing anything with your life. Like, how about you take my goal on and you go do this stuff for me? And then they sell you on that. Jobs do that. like government parties do that, right? That's kind of what's going on. I think a lot of it's just because a lot of people are just not intentional. They don't know what they're working towards. They don't know what their values are. They don't know what's holding them back.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think some of it has to do also with they don't know what they don't know. And so videos like this, videos that I produce that open their eyes and say, you know what, I've been feeling this, but I couldn't put it into words. And it almost takes one person to say, fuck, this what this fucking guy is saying. Yeah. Okay, I'm not crazy. There's gotta be another way.
Right.
And so it's by creating content like this and talking to guys or anybody who's willing to listen to my content is let them know is like, listen, the veil is over your eyes. And what I'm trying to do is just open it up enough. And once you peek and you actually see and you're like, fuck, then it's up to you to actually start making plans to say, okay, am I okay with this? And sadly, most people, even if you tell them this, they're still going to be okay with this because they have what's called a herd mentality. They will not change, whether it's their cognitive bias, whether whatever bias they have, they still will not change because the underlying fact is, well, I've done all of these things to get to where I am. I went to college. Guys, I'm talking about even like guys who are like doctors. They fall into this. I went to college. I'm in so much debt. I know attorneys that absolutely fucking hate what they do, but they can't or won't do anything else because that's their programming. They're like, this is all I know how to do. For the last 8 years, I've been doing this. And now I have to practice this law because I have a certain lifestyle that I need to do. And that's one of the biggest things that's hard for people to understand is in order to get out of this, you have to cut your lifestyle dramatically. And most people will not do that. They're just not willing to do that. They could have, they could be married, they could have kids. So I understand that it could be hard. But here's the thing. Would you rather cut your lifestyle or would you rather have your entire company move to China and your lifestyle's been cut anyway? Because this is the sad reality.
Right.
Most jobs with the advent of AI has been replacing what people have thought are jobs that are not going to ever get replaced. Lawyers, you guys are on notice. Some of your jobs are going to be completely replaced inside probably 5 years. There are certain industries that are completely getting wiped out by AI. So you think you might have a safe job right now. All it takes is one real smart person who kind of sees between the edges and creates and designs an AI tool to replace your job. How fast do you think your boss will replace you? Fast. It's all about numbers. So, would you rather cut and save and bring down your lifestyle in order to bring it up in, say, 5 years? Or would you rather have the government or your boss do it? Because those are your options. Either you're in control of your future or you're letting and you're abducting responsibility to everybody else. Those are your only two choices. Now, me being self-employed and having separate and couple different companies, if one company isn't doing good, the others should support me and my lifestyle when that one's doing better and another one's not doing good. So you have all this continuity between the companies. But it took me a long time to get there. I don't live in mansions and fly
Well,
around.
that's the thing too is,
Still avoid.
and I think that's because of baselines. Like, I think a lot of people kind of live their life in baselines, and like when they finally figure this out and they kind of get intentional with it, they set up what their personal values are. They get an idea of what's holding them back. Now they have a baseline, and so they're doing the things they are right now. They are where they are right now, where they're starting out. Whether they're trying to make more money, whether they're trying to have fulfilling relationships, whatever their goal is, it doesn't really matter. You have a baseline. And then you
Yeah.
get so far down the path and you move the baseline up. And so when you do fail, you fail down to the baseline. and then you move the baseline up. And then when you do fail, you fail down to the baseline. You just keep moving that baseline up because you're never starting over from scratch. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get the wrong idea with this. Like, you're going to start working on this, you're going to make a lot of results, but you're going to have like all of those skills. Like, even if you fail, you're still walking away with the skills, you're still walking away with the foundation. And you can start from that foundation now and start to build up again and see how it goes. And so you got to kind of reframe how you're looking at failure and how you're looking at progress and all that kind of stuff too, because failure is progress because you're not starting from scratch. Now you have a new foundation and a new baseline to build from.
Yeah. But I would argue that a lot of people, when they hear this type of content, they don't feel like they're failures. They're like, I got a great house, I got a cool car, I have nice clothes. They don't think back, take it a couple steps back, like, but you're heavily in debt. If you have a cool car and a house and you can pay cash, well, then we're not talking to you. You're not the person we're talking to. You're probably the second half that we'll get to as a producer. But if you have this consumer mindset and you have this model citizen that you were programmed into, I promise you, there is zero way that you can have financial freedom. It will not happen. It cannot happen. This is just the law of numbers. The more money you make, generally speaking, the more money you're going to spend. That's just how humans are. If I make $100,000, my lifestyle is probably at 100,000, probably more. If I get a hell of a job offer and I go to 200,000, guess what? My house just got bigger, my cars just got nicer, my clothes just got better, and in no time, I'm living a $200,000 lifestyle because that's how much my income is. And so the key is to understand that, and if you're fine with that, then that's fine. But if you're not fine with that, and you happen to agree with me that my boss can fire me today, what's the probability of me getting another $200,000 job? I'm getting older. My skill set isn't the way it used to be. I may have to move in order to do that. You got to start thinking about all of this stuff because the probability of you being able to replace your income, especially if you're an older male, is not going to happen.
Well, and they kind of fooled you into it too. Like, you got to think about that too. Like, how they've given you just enough money to make you okay with
Sure.
this kind of servitude life that you found yourself in, right? And I think that in a lot of cases, like, people are scared to step out of relationships. They're scared to kind of maybe get a divorce, lose half their stuff. They're scared to leave their job because, they don't know if they can get a better income anywhere else. And so they kind of just put up with this mediocre life in a lot of cases. Like, a lot of them will just, they'll have babies, they'll go buy another house, they'll go buy another car, and now they're in even deeper, and now they really can't quit, and now they really have
Right.
to keep like showing up, and it's just like, and that wasn't the life they wanted. They kind of got conned into it. Like, they were told by society, they were told by the media that this is the life, this is the American dream, this is exactly the way you should live. And so then they get into it, they get a better job, they move up the ladder, they buy a new car, they buy another house, they have another baby, they get married, and now they're stuck. Like, there's like, how do they even get out of that? Like, this is not the life that I saw for myself. And like, this is what they told me to do, just like you said, right?
It was sold a lie. You were told to do this, and then this is the result. And now you're pissed. Most people, once they hear this, they're pissed. And then this is where they didn't necessarily call me, but when guys are going through a divorce midlife, all of this stuff starts crashing down on them because now they're forced to drop their lifestyle. I gotta pay her child support. I gotta pay this. I can't live in my own house, but she can. It's all designed to be against you because you're the one who's making the money. You're the one they have the thumb on. She might not make as much as you. There's no thumb on her. So this model citizen bleeds through everything, not just your money. You probably have a mediocre wife. You're probably obedient to her. Whatever the fuck she says goes. This is why your relationship sucks in the first place. You're dependent on her probably for emotional support and obviously for sex. You're entertained usually by her. You guys are your own entertainment. All the entire model bleeds through everything that you do. It's not just about money, it's your mindset. Now, the other way, this is for older people, that tend to fall into this. This is my grandparents, and it worked for them. It didn't necessarily work for my parents, and it definitely won't work for me. Is you have the consumer and then you have the saver. You're both serving the same master. Okay. Now, the saver mindset is that person like that people who listen to Dave Ramsey, like Jesus, like I understand what he's doing, but now he's producing nothing but savers. But here's the savers mindset: live very little, live almost on nothing, save everything, invest that money into the stock market in the hopes my
Right.
retirement, I can live 10 good years before I fucking die. That's the
I mean,
model. But here's, huh?
it works though. The thing is, it works, but it's like, what
It
kind of
doesn't
life
work
is that?
anymore.
Like, well, what kind of life is that though? Like, I mean, is that really a fulfilling life? Is that really the life you want to live?
Yeah. But here's the thing, it doesn't work anymore. 2008 stock market crash, when most people lost millions in their pensions. All these older people you see working at McDonald's now, you start seeing working at Walmart.
Right.
Do you think they want to be? No, they have to be, because they subscribe to the idea of I'm going to save as much as I can and I'm going to give it to this
Right.
pension fund. The pension fund doesn't give a shit about you. All they care about is the management fees and how they can turn your money to make a commission. When there's a correction in the market, you pay for it, not the pension fund, certainly not the people in charge of it. They're still making their money. So now you have a hope mentality. This is why I get so pissed off about this, because I still hear people today, I invest in Bitcoin. I invest in the stock market. I was like, all right, stupid. None of that you can control. You think you can, but Bitcoin, the government could come in right now, completely shut that down if they wanted to. Your money's gone. The stock market in 2008 had a correction. I believe it had a correction in 16 or right before 16. Again, a lot of old people had to go back to work. You saw during COVID, people lost their jobs. They have to go back to work in whatever capacity they are. So they would have to take any type of job. You had people who were making $50,000 a year and they're forced to make 35 in a new industry. That's just the reality. So the saver mindset, you're still serving the same masters. The thumb is still on you. Here's the problem with both of them: the slaughterhouse. At the end of the day, the government's not done with you. Taxes come out, life just happens, and you end up dying. The slaughterhouse at the end is death. All you've done your entire life is work and pander and help other people, and your reward is maybe 10 good years to go fucking golf with your
I mean, the
buddies
thing is,
before you die.
even that's a farce now. Like, if you look at the statistics today, like, nobody's retiring at 60. Nobody's retiring at 70, like the way they used to. Like, I mean, you look at what the American dream was and, like, kind of how the media painted it 30 years ago, and, like, that was one thing, but it's not that way today. Like, nowadays, like, people are just going right into nursing homes. They're basically, like depending on their family to take care of them. And then in which case, they're paying $200,000 medical bills to try and take care of grandma to make sure that she can live another 5 years. And then they just come in, swoop in, sell grandma's house, take all the assets, and pay all the freaking insurance off. And like,
Yeah.
that's everything she worked for her whole life, everything grandpa worked for, and it's just gone because of medical bills, because
Yeah.
they sold us this life that we wanted to have a few more years of grandma, and now our inheritance is just gone. Everything that we was left meant to be a legacy, right? It used to matter a lot more, but nowadays I think the government just kind of swoops and takes everything. All these big corporations just kind of swoop in and take everything. It's the same thing with Bitcoin. Like, how long do you think it'll be before BlackRock has enough leverage on Bitcoin to just start doing what they want with it?
That's the whole point of it. All of these institutions, their number one goal is to make money for their shareholders, not to be a good fiduciary to you. They don't give a shit about you. They want your money. That's where it ends. So the only way to get out of this, I feel, because I've done a lot of research on this, the only way you can truly get out of this is to do what Chase and I do, is to be a producer. Now, am I saying you need to quit your job right now and start a business. No, but you can absolutely start becoming a producer. You work 9 to 5. What about 6 to 9? If you're really good at creating content, maybe you are an attorney right now and you hate it, but you could start producing, say, YouTube videos on what part of law that you practice. You might be a divorce attorney, you might be a litigation attorney. There's eyeballs that want to watch and hear what you have to say. So you can start
Right.
monetizing the attention that way. Maybe you're a plumber right now and you can, again, you work for a company 9 to 5. Maybe you can moonlight a little bit and do some hot water tanks on the weekend. I don't know what it is that you know how to do or what you're good at or what you're willing to do. But I can tell you, if you don't do something and you keep thinking these two mindsets or the model citizen is going to be your pathway to freedom, you're fucking mistaken. It's not. So become a producer in some manner. Now, Chase and I do school platform that we are creating more. We do have some business ideas that you guys can go into, very low ticket, coming out soon. But
Yeah,
forget
sure.
that. You're good at something. Everybody's good at something. Figure out what it is you're good at, and then figure out a way how you can make money doing it. That's
Absolutely.
kind of the essence of this video, because if you can figure out how to make money doing something you're good at, nobody can take that away from you. Job can't fire you. My girlfriend cleans. People, she loves it. She's really good at it. She organizes, but she's down south and people just, I don't want to say they look down on her for cleaning. That's not what it is, but they think that's beneath them, so they hire her. The amount of fucking money she makes for cleaning, I want to gag. It's more than I make per hour if you break it down. I'm like, this is effing crazy. And she's always busy. She has the producer's mindset. She decided not to be a 9 to 5 and get a job. And she works probably longer and harder than most people, but she has excess money and she has that ability that we all want, that freedom. I don't want to work today. My kids have this event at school. I'm going to go there. A lot of us don't have that. A lot of us have a husband and a wife, and maybe the husband has to work all the time. The wife gets to go to all these events, but the husband, again, he has to work. If you can become a producer and you start making money on this, you can eventually replace your income so that you don't need that fucking job anymore. People do it all the time.
I realize that here in Mexico. Like, why do you think Mexicans can cross the border and like go up into the U.S. and just stand at a Home Depot parking lot and take everybody's jobs? Like, it's really not tough for them to do
Yeah.
because they're after it. Like, they're on it. Like, they want that job more than you want that job. I'll tell you that right now for sure. Freaking Pedro, Jose, Manuel, like they want those jobs way more than you want those jobs, and they're going to get them first because of it, because they're willing to do it, and they'll do a good job, and like they'll do a good enough job, so they're coming after it, man. That's just what it is. But if you're here in Mexico, like, dude, those guys are out there selling stuff. Like they're out there making cookies, selling cookies in the parking lots. They're out there freaking selling gum on the freaking streets. They're in the freaking on the beach, man, trying to sell silver, whatever they can get you, like little trinkets and stuff, blankets, hats, you name it, man. Like they're entrepreneurial. That's just what they do. Like you get stopped at the stoplight here, and like they're out there freaking throwing machetes up in the air, trying to like, okay, here, like, where's my tips, man? Like I'm doing the thing. And so it's cool though. But that's, you look on every corner. This guy's selling oranges. This girl over here selling massages. Like, and it's just like everybody's selling something somewhere, doing a lot of it. And so basically, I've always admired, I think, like just how entrepreneurial a lot of these guys are. And that's just what they do. Like, I mean, I've had housekeepers and stuff in here. She knows 10 different people who will come in here and do 10 different jobs for me. And that's just what it's like to live here. And so I can imagine when they jump the border and go over there, like they want those jobs way more. They just do. And that's what it means to be a producer. Like, you've got to get out there and make it happen. You can't just wait for it to come to you. When you've worked a job your whole life and you're working 9 to 5, they tell you exactly what to do. They tell you exactly when to be there. You don't have to do any work outside of those hours. You don't have to think about it at all. You just show up, you make your money, you move on. And that's cool for a lot of people. But when you're a producer, like, it's all on you. Like, you're judge, jury, and executioner. You're the CEO. You're the janitor. You're doing everything. And it's way more hours and way more skills that are required to get it done. And so when you're in that kind of a position, like, well, you're limited on time for sure. So you're going to have to figure out how to leverage other people's time. And that takes leveraging assets. The more money you make, the more people you can actually insert into your goal and get your system done, and like tell them exactly what to do. And you just got to flip the system. Don't be the person on the bottom taking the orders. Be the person on the top giving the orders. But that takes being passionate about what you do. Like, I've watched my brother come down here to Cabo, and like, he moved here and he does wraps for a living. Like, he had no idea how he was going to come down here and start a wrap business, but he got a little route up to California, coming back to get his wraps and stuff in place. He came down here, started selling it in some of the groups, Facebook groups down here, started getting referrals, and then he just got up and got going with a wrap business down here in Cabo, just because like that was a skill he had that he could leverage.
Rats or wraps?
Wraps, like car wraps, like basically like maybe that custom wraps on cars. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you said wrap business. I'm like, that's weird, but okay, cool. So wraps, yeah. But there's a market for everything. And so when I did this video, I started obviously doing research and all that. And I started thinking, I'm so glad that my, I guess, only real job was the military. And then since the military, I had a couple contract positions, but I don't really count those. I've been self-employed. And I get a lot of people, and even Alex Hormozy, if you don't know who he is, Google it. Even he advocates that, look, at if you can work a 9 to 5 and make, say, $400,000 or $500,000, you're better off. And I agree with that if you still understand you're under the model citizen, and if maybe you can save half of that to reinvest. A lot of people don't reinvest the money they make. So I do agree with that. If you have a really good job and you're smart enough to take some of your earnings and maybe, yes, put it in Bitcoin, yes, put it in the stock market, yes, put it in real estate, but understand, diversify it out enough so that you're hedging, then you're doing well. And I'm not here to knock you for that. But most people live exactly at what they make. There's no room to add another business. There's no room to.
I think most could relate to that. Yeah, definitely. Most people, I think.
That's most people. Now, if you flip it to the producer side, the mindset for most producers, most self-employed people is we don't want excess cash laying around. As soon as we have some, it gets reinvested into something and to grow. Magnetic Men's a perfect example. We put money into this about a year and some change ago, and we're funding it. And you have to keep watering it. You have to keep putting money into it so that once it starts taking off, people are like, oh, wow, you're lucky. Well, no, nobody sees the back end of somebody who's self-employed. All of the hours Chase and Kim does coding and writing sales, all the stuff they do, and then all the stuff I do with the videos and editing. Nobody sees that. But I can promise you, we work 2, 3, 4 times more than your typical 9 to 5. So the point of this is those producers that actually make it, wouldn't it make sense on a mathematical equation that they make more than you eventually? Of course. They've put in their time, they put in their equity, they've took massive amounts of risk of their own capital and maybe family capital. And so at some point, that's going to produce fruit, you hope. Or it completely goes away and you go bankrupt. It's all on you. I still would rather have it all on me and go bankrupt on my terms than some boss fucking saying, hey, we're done.
And that's interesting too, because like I remember thinking like that before, like back. I mean, I was an employee 5 years ago. Like I was working at the IRS, and I mean I was
Yeah.
working for the government. I was a federal agent, like helping people with their taxes and stuff. But ultimately, like I remember showing up to that cubicle every day and thinking, like, dude, I don't want to freaking be in this cubicle every day. I hate freaking Utah. I was in Ogden, Utah at the time. Like I freaking hated Utah. I'm like, I just want to go to Cabo. I want to be on the beach. And so I ended up starting my own company and coming out here. But I learned a lot along the way. And what I realized was like leverage is everything. And if you want to get more leverage, like you've got to, I mean, you got to get out there. You got to talk to people. You've got to sell your ideas to people. You've got to be able to sell your offers and stuff to people. And so you got to get really good at communication skills. And then I realized too that if I wanted to make more money, like I had to make better offers, I had to refine my products, I had to get better at making clients happy, the client experience and that kind of stuff. Like there were so many other jobs involved with it that I hadn't considered that I would have to do and that I would have to get good at. That I mean, it was kind of a shock, right? And I think that that's what I see when I see somebody like Elon Musk, when I see somebody like Jeff Bezos. Like whether they're evil or not is kind of irrelevant. Like those guys took a risk and they built up leverage, and that's why they are where they are. And like you could do it too. Like everybody has that opportunity, but think about the responsibility that somebody like that has. Like the responsibility that Elon Musk wakes up with. Like it's way more responsibility than I have. He has way more employees. He has way more assets. He has way more to manage and going on, right? He has whole people to manage all of those things that he also has to stay on top of and manage. And I can't imagine the responsibility that that guy wakes up with. Because I remember when I was managing 14 employees full time, dude, that was a lot of responsibility. Just having 14 people that I was responsible for making sure they got paid for their families, everything on top of that, let alone what I had going on. And so like it's just way more responsibility than I think anybody considers. And so you have to be willing to take that on. Okay, if I'm going to level up and I'm going to make this happen, like there's going to be more responsibility and I have to face it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about risk reward. Obviously,
Right.
his reward being one of the richest men in the world, you could call it a reward or you could call it a curse because I promise you, people at that level, they don't even care about the money. It's just a game to them. People who are in the model citizen model,
Driving
especially the
different. Yeah.
consumer, they care about money. Those are the people who are like, how much do you make? Or here's how you can kind of tell people are in this. They'll ask what you're doing for a living or what you do for a living, so they know how much respect to give you come the next sentence. Hey, Jared, I'm Bob. Nice to meet you. Hey, Bob, what do you do for a living? I'm a trash man. Huh. I'm better than him. Well, what do you do, Jared? I'm a graphic designer. Oh, so you're both in the model citizen. You're both consumers. There's no difference. Okay. So I need people to understand it doesn't really matter what you do for a living. Understand why you're doing it. If you truly love what you do, that's fine. I'm going to argue most people who have a job just over broke or jerk of a boss, whatever acronym you want to call it, they don't love what they do. They might like it, they might be okay with it because they make good money. But if you ask most of those people what did they want to do when they were little, besides Superman, you can't be Superman. I wanted to be Superman, so you can't. But my point is, they wanted to do something else. And life happens, something happened. Their friends and their family and their teachers and society says, you can't do that. Why don't you be an accountant? You're good with numbers, Jared. Be an accountant. You're really smart. You should be an attorney. You're good at arguing. That's what you should do. And there's money in it. This is how it happens. But most
I know
people,
I got that too when I was a kid and stuff too. Like, dude, you're so good with computers. You should go into computers. Hey, dude, you're so tall. You should be a basketball player. Like all the
exactly,
time.
exactly. I was, and again, if you're trying to get out of this trap, look at everybody who's self-employed that is truly successful. There's a lot of people say they're self-employed, boss babes, boss entrepreneurs, and they're not. I'm talking about the people in your community that really do have that balance where they have that beautiful life and they have this killer business. But ask them, what came first? I worked my balls off for the business in order to get this life. So you got to be willing to sacrifice one or the other. If you're not willing to sacrifice your time now, your vacations, maybe the way you live now, in order to kind of bring up a business idea that you have or bring this up, then that's fine. You're just not willing to do it. Just know what's going to happen at the end of the day. You're still going to end up probably broke, retired. I hope that you have children that might be able to support you. Maybe not. They might not be able to support themselves because they learn from you. So your kids are watching you. So if you have that consumer mindset and you're living high end and you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, that's what your children learn. And so they're going to do the same thing. So they're not going to be able to help you. My kids, and I'm not saying this to boast, I created a company in Syracuse for my daughter. The only reason why I opened up the company, and I'm not saying this to be mean, I hate the fucking company. I could care less about it, but she likes it. It's starting to make money for her. I set it up for her. My son, he's the next one. I'm setting them up in businesses. I'm getting them to understand that you don't, life is on your terms, guys, especially if you're young. If you're watching this, guys, and you're young, I don't give a fuck what your parents say. If you don't want to go to college, man, you're just going to waste your time. All you're going to do is waste your time. Have the balls and tell your parents, hey, man, no, I want to start a company. You're willing to sign a loan. You're willing to give me 20 grand for college. Why don't you give me that 20 grand and let me start a company? I don't understand how parents push their kids into shit they want them to do when it didn't work for their parents. That's just insanity. I had a conversation with a young kid up here who he's trying to tell his parents he does not want to go to college. And he's a smart kid, but he just knows. He's like, I see my dad went to college. He hates his job. Yeah, he makes good money, but he hates what he does, but he has to do it because that's all he knows. And so his dad keeps pressing him, nope, you got to go to college. If you want to be something, you got to go to college. He's programmed. So I'm trying to give him some
Right.
tools and some support on basically helping him to tell his dad to fuck off and you're not going to go to
I
college.
mean,
It's your life.
I went through something similar where, like, I grew up obviously in the public school system in the United States. Like, I was in Utah, like, for like pretty much elementary school, middle school, high school, all the way up. Graduated in Utah, got my diploma from there, moved to Vegas, went to college when I was in Vegas, all that stuff too. And it's like, I mean, it was a natural
Sure.
lifestyle, like most other people, I'm sure. It's probably not too far different. But
Yep.
then I kind of like I was working as a Fed agent, quit, and then basically just moved to Mexico not too many months later. And when I did that, like my kids, I wanted to get them into private school for a while, but then I ended up just getting them in online school and just kind of doing like the homeschooling thing to a certain aspect, and like getting other employees and stuff here that would help us like streamline things. And it was weird because like it was something I had never experienced. Like I hadn't considered that, like, okay, my kids don't have to grow up in the public school system. Like that's stupid. Like I remember my cousins giving me so much crap and saying, hey, so it was really, really crazy for me, like understanding like my cousin thinks that it's dangerous here, right? And like she thinks that like my kids are going to get a lesser education because we're here. And I think that a lot of people in the US might have that view, but it's untrue. It's really not true at all because like my kids have been homeschooled, and my son recently went back to Utah with his mom to go stay for a few months. He got into the public school there because he wanted to try it out. We're not going to stop him. Like, okay, you want to go back
Yep.
to public school? You go see what it's all about. Cool. And he did. My other son stayed here and he stayed in the homeschool. And it was vastly different. The public school system is so far behind where they are at. They've
Yep.
already learned everything they're learning in public school 6 months in advance. They go to school 3 hours a day. Public school goes 6 hours a day. There's no reason to go 6 hours a day. They learn everything they need in 3 hours. And they move on and they're here hanging out with kids in the neighborhood, learning Spanish, all that stuff. And so they're a lot more cultured. They're a lot more educated. They're way farther ahead of the kids who are in those public schools. And that's just not something that I expected coming down here.
Sure.
And so, like I said, I mean, I had those hard ingrained values that the United States had given to me about public school and how everybody had to go through that process, but it was entirely untrue. And I proved it.
No, that's true. And just another testament to the inefficiency of all government to include schools. It doesn't prepare, it encourages the model citizen, because this is the only way the government really makes their tax money. They don't make tax money on self-employed because they have tax shelters and they know how to use the tax code. Believe me, I do. I don't pay a lot of taxes legally for a reason. I don't subscribe to fucking paying taxes for illegals coming here. Fuck that. I'm not going to give my money for that shit. My point is, if you're a W-2 employee of choice, you're going to pay through the nose, through the taxes that your employer has to take out, they're mandated to take out to pay the government. If you become a producer, i.e., self employed, you pay them on a quarterly basis based on what you tell them that you make. Also, which is based on all the deductions you get to take for running the business. So if you're smart, you show very little, you pay very little. Might sound horrible for people that are living like, I got to pay all this in taxes. Well, you're the dumb one, because
Right.
there's another way to do it,
You could.
and it's legal. But I'm not here to throw shade at people that are falling in line with the model citizen. To
They
a
don't know
degree,
what
I
they don't
will as
know,
well,
right? Yeah.
but I'm here to open your eyes that there is another way. You don't have to leave this construct that you created. You can start a side hustle. You can start something a little bit for yourself, so that maybe you can take that money that you have earned and now you have money to reinvest. Maybe it's in real estate, whatever it's in. But the point is, don't just save and scrimp and hold off your life in the hopes that when you're 65, because the chances are really good you're going to be dead before that anyway, and you can't enjoy it. And if you are 65, you're going to have a lot of health problems starting, that you're really not going to be able to enjoy life. But you still don't control what happens when there's a correction in the market. You don't control if your job moves to India and they just fire everybody in your department. None of that you can control. But what you can control is what you do right now. And what you can do right now is start small, create a new business. If you're young, this is exactly when you need to start a business. Oh my God, we got to do some videos on AI and how you can literally learn different algorithms for AI, and you'll be set. I digress. If you're really good at something, like again, my girlfriend's really good at organizing and cleaning. She recognized her worth and she just created a company. She didn't think about it. She's like, I can just do this. Yeah, you can. You can do the same thing. Maybe you're good at cleaning. Maybe you're a woman watching this or a guy watching this, and you're really good at maybe cleaning out garages. I don't fucking know. You're like, you know what? Guys don't like cleaning out the garage, but I'm really good at it. I know what the tools look like. I know what I can throw out, get rid of. Like, I know these things. You can start a whole business organizing garages for people. I just created a business for you. You're welcome. You owe me 10%. My point is, everybody's good at something, and most people are good at a lot of things. So find out what you're good at, and then maybe find out what you like. Maybe you like to write. Maybe you like to create. Maybe you're good at painting or something, and you can paint people and you can do a little business. Like I can create the couple and just, I don't know what the hell it is, but there's money to be made if you hustle a little bit and just put yourself out there a little bit and let people see you, who you are. That's the problem. Everybody wants to stay that herd mentality. This is why everybody dresses the same. This is why most people listen to the same music, why most people live in the same type of community. This is why most people talk the same. This is why it's either 50% of the community like Biden and 50% like Trump. There's a very few independents that actually can fucking think for themselves and be like, wait a minute, I don't like either one of them, but my God, become your own individual. That's all I'm saying. Understand that nobody is here to save you. Nobody gives a shit about you. Your girlfriend might love you, your wife might love you. They they care about themselves. You need to care about you more than they care about you. And if you can do that, you can start creating some wins for yourself, some success for yourself, and understand I have to limit my consumerism. I have to limit this and not listen to what society says. I should buy this car. just because my car is 2 years old, I better get another one because my buddy got a car. Start getting out of that mindset and start creating value for yourself. And the only way you can do that is through self employment. That is it. That is the only way this can happen. Chase, what do you got on it?
I mean, it's the only way you can really get any control over it, for sure. I mean, you're kind of subject to somebody else's timing. Like, if they want you to be somewhere, like, it doesn't matter how big your job is. If you're making $100,000 a month, if you're making like $200,000 a year, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter how big it is. You're still subject to what somebody else, like, you have to be where somebody else says you have to be when somebody else says you have to be there. You really have no leverage in that situation unless you're saving a lot of money. I mean, like, if you've read The Richest Man in Babylon, like, that's what that's all about. Like, really, how you get the true freedom is by saving a portion of your income, but it only works if you're making a massive amount of money already. And so, like, if you're already like down on the bottom, you're already making below average, there's no way you're climbing out of that hole anytime soon. And so the best possible thing that you can do is get a side income. And that doesn't mean you have to start a business necessarily. Dude, like, start flipping trucks, start flipping houses, like, start investing in other assets. Like, it doesn't have to be anything that complex. You don't have to go learn some world-class skills. You just have to start taking action on some things that you're interested in. And maybe that is investing in Bitcoin. Maybe that is investing in some of the other altcoins and stuff like that too. You can make some money there. You just got to be careful and make sure you're educated enough to do that. That does take a particular skill set to do accurately. I've known people who have lost $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 from that. And it was terrible for them. They went through a deep depression after that. And it's not something you want to deal with. And so, right, you just got to choose the avenue that's right for you. Maybe it's investing. Maybe it's getting a new house. Maybe it's flipping cars. Maybe it's like doing what Gary Vee does and going to garage sales and finding trinkets and trying to find people to buy them. Like, it's just finding things and finding buyers at the end of the day. And that's all you're really doing. You can sell other people's products and get in on affiliate income and run ads to that stuff. Like, there's so many different things that you can do that don't really require you to have an intensive skill set. And so there's something that you could start doing today that could start making you that side income.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the other part it's too of just understanding that we only have so much time in this world. You know, I'm 48 years old. I'm 6'1". My girlfriend hates when I say this, but I mean, it's just numbers. I'm 6'1", 230 pounds. My life expectancy is less than 70 years. Now, if I subscribe to the model citizen and I retired at 65, that means I have 5 years to do whatever. Now, of course, I could live to be 80, to live to be 100, but I'm going off of just statistics. Who would sign up for that? You know, that, but most people do. And so when I got out of the military at 24, going on 25, I already said, that's it, man. I'm good. I'm willing to work really hard for myself. And I got involved in all kinds of businesses, most of it real estate based. I have no problem working 12 or 14 hours for me. I might not make the money somebody who, a CEO of a company that makes, $1 million a year, but they work too. Those guys work too. But my point is, I'd rather work for me, and I'd rather at the end of the day, if I lose it all, it's because of me and my fault, not because of some company restructuring plan, or not because some correction in the entire market where I lost 50% of my revenue with the money I put in on my 401k. Because it's happened time and time again. About every 10 to 15 years, this happens. And so I started looking at that when I was 25 and I was just about to get married. I had a baby on the way. I'm like, I'm doing this shit on my terms. I might not see my wife and my baby for a few days at a time because I have to work and I have to keep doing this. And I'm willing to accept that. And I'm willing to take on that responsibility. Now I'm a little bit later in life. I'm 48. I'm still working my balls off, but I have a little bit of freedom. If I want to go to North Carolina when I'm done working and spend a few extra days to see my girlfriend, I just schedule it. I'm like, okay, I don't have to ask anybody. I don't have to ask my boss. I don't have to get permission from anybody. So there's a lot of freedom in that. And if you've never experienced that, I'd love for everybody to experience it. Instead of I gotta take 15-minute break to take a piss. I have to ask to use the bathroom. We're not fucking kids. We're not children. But a lot of these jobs treat you like you're children. I could never do that for me. So at 25, I
And it
retired
is
in that
like
time.
that. I mean, like to a large
It is.
extent, like you have lunch at this time, you have break at this time, single file lines, all that kind of stuff too. And like even like Joe just mentioned here too, like how he's just taking an apprentice electrician job at 42 years old, and he's just trying to take starvation off the table.
Yeah,
And
well,
one thing that I've realized through all of this stuff is the fact that you're starting out at a different level of the hierarchy, no matter where you're at. Like you're basically like sometimes you are just trying to take starvation off the table. Sometimes you're just trying to gain a little more status. Like everybody has different drivers and motivators at every stage. And you
yeah.
got to kind of pick up where you're at and just kind of move up the hierarchy and then start to move on from there and make more decisions. Like the whole goal is to get as much leverage as possible.
Yeah, true. But Joe, you're 42. So, you're learning a skill. Once you know it, nobody can fucking take it away from you. So let's say you work your balls off. I don't know how long it takes to be a master electrician. I don't know if you even have to be a master electrician to go off on your own. I don't know where you live. My point is, let's say it took 5 years. Now you're a master electrician in 5 years. You're 47 years old. You could start your own company, get a couple people under you, start charging 175, 275, 300 an hour on weekend jobs. So yeah, you might have taken a step back, but it's only to move yourself even further down the road. So I think that's whatever you had to do to starve off, feed off starvation. Fucking great, good for you, man. I applaud that. That's hustle, that's grind, and that's recognizing a trade is something everybody should do. You should all learn some type of a trade because they're in demand and you can always fall back on it.
It's a skill set. No,
It's
that's
a skill
massive for
set.
sure.
He can always fall back. He might want to go fucking do ice cream for a year. He can always still be an electrician the next year. Something you can never. So, take it for what it is. You're learning something that nobody can take away from you, and you can absolutely create a business for that. And what I'd also tell you to do while you're an electrician now, while you know how to do basic stuff, you should be creating a YouTube channel and showing people how to change out a plug. I know there's 1,000 people on YouTube showing it, but they're not Joe. Somebody might resonate with Joe, who likes maybe he's funny, and they start watching your channel. So even if other people are doing the exact same you're doing, you should be creating content on YouTube on what you know how to do because attention will equal currency at some point. That's all I got to say on that. Good luck, Joe.
It's leverage, audience building for sure. Like the bigger audience you have, the better you'll do for sure.
That'd be a good name, the 40-year apprentice. Yeah.
I love it for sure. Absolutely, man. Good luck for sure. But that's all I think we have for you guys today. We'll be back next week with another topic for you guys for sure. Let us know if there's anything you guys want us to cover, if there's anything you guys are curious about, anything you guys want us to research, dig into, have a conversation about. Make sure you guys show up for the conversation. We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good one, guys.